I raised a thief. I just didn't know it yet. My name is Eleanor Richardson, and at 68 years old, I thought I had life figured out. My husband Charles had passed away 3 years ago, after a beautiful 50-year marriage. We'd built a successful accounting firm together in Auckland, raised 3 children, and accumulated enough wealth to ensure a comfortable retirement. Our family home overlooking the harbor was worth over $2 million. Our investment portfolio was healthy, life insurance, savings accounts, bonds Charles had made sure I'd never want for anything. My daughter Victoria was my pride and joy. 43 years old, master's degree in business administration, 2 beautiful children of her own. After Charles died, she stepped up in ways I never expected. She visited me 3 times a week, helped me navigate the confusing world of estate planning and financial management. When my doctor diagnosed me with early-stage dementia, Victoria held my hand through every appointment. "Mum, don't worry about a thing," she'd say, squeezing my fingers. "I'll take care of everything." And I believed her. Why wouldn't I? This was Victoria, my firstborn, the daughter who'd organized my surprise 60th birthday party, who'd held me while I sobbed at Charles's funeral, who sent flowers every Mother's Day without fail. When my lawyer suggested giving Victoria power of attorney, it seemed like the obvious choice. My sons lived overseas, James in London, Michael in Singapore. They had their own lives, their own families. But Victoria was here. Victoria was present. Victoria cared. I signed the papers in December 2018, my hand trembling slightly from the medication I'd started taking for the dementia. Victoria smiled at me across the lawyer's mahogany desk. "I promise I'll protect your interests. Mum, everything you and Dad worked for, I'll guard it with my life." That night, she took me to my favorite restaurant. We ordered champagne and lobster. She toasted to new beginnings and family. Taking care of family. Remember thinking how lucky I was. How blessed. Some elderly women ended up in homes, forgotten by their children. But not me. I had Victoria. I had no idea that in the next 3 years, she would steal over $1.2 million from my accounts. I had no idea she'd been planning this since the day Charles died. I had no idea that the daughter I trusted, most in this world, was about to destroy everything. The betrayal started the moment I signed those papers. Looking back now, the signs were everywhere. But when you love someone unconditionally, when you trust them with every fiber of your being, you don't see the red flags. You explain them away. You rationalize. You make excuses. The first strange thing happened in March 2019. 3 months after Victoria got power of attorney, I wanted to withdraw some cash to buy a gift for my granddaughter's birthday. Victoria's own daughter, Emma, just $500. Nothing extravagant. "Mom, I'll handle it," Victoria said quickly when I mentioned going to the bank. "You don't need to worry about these things anymore. That's what I'm here for." She showed up the next day with a wrapped present and a receipt. "Already taken care of," she said, kissing my cheek. "Stop trying to do everything yourself," I laughed it off. She was being protective. That was good, right? Then in June, I received a call from my financial advisor, Martin Henderson. Charles and I had worked with him for 20 years. He was concerned about some unusual account activity. "Eleanor, there have been several large transfers from your savings into your checking account," Martin explained, "and then immediate withdrawals. Is everything all right? Are you planning any major purchases?" My heart raced. I hadn't authorized any transfers. I'll have to check with Victoria. She handles everything now. Victoria has power of attorney? Martin's voice carried a note I couldn't quite identify. Concern, suspicion? "Eleanor, I'd recommend you review your bank statements regularly. Even with power of attorney, you should know where your money is going." I promised I would. But when I mentioned Martin's call to Victoria, her expression darkened. Martin's old school. "Mom, he doesn't understand modern financial management. I'm optimizing your accounts for better returns, moving money around to maximize interest. It's all perfectly normal." She pulled out her laptop, showing me colorful charts and graphs that made my head spin. See, everything's fine. Better than fine. I'm making your money work harder for you. It sounded so reasonable. So professional. Victoria had her MBA after all. What did I know about high-level financial strategies? Maybe you should consider switching to a different advisor, Victoria suggested casually. Someone younger. More innovative. Martin's stuck in the past. 3 weeks later, she'd convinced me to move all my accounts to a new firm, one where she knew the advisors personally, one where no one questioned the transfers. By late 2019, Victoria's lifestyle had noticeably upgraded. I noticed it during Sunday dinners at her house, the ones she insisted on hosting instead of coming to mine anymore. New furniture appeared in her living room. Expensive leather. Sofas that she claimed were on sale. Designer handbags casually left on the counter, Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton. When I complimented her new diamond bracelet, she waved it off. Work bonus, she said. They really appreciate me at the firm. But I knew what Victoria earned. She worked as an HR manager for a mid-sized company. Good salary, sure, but not buy a new BMW salary. Yet there it was, gleaming in her driveway in December. Midnight blue, leather interior, all the bells and whistles. You got a new car? I asked, confused. What happened to your Honda? Traded it in. Got a great deal. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Besides, I'm working hard. I deserve nice things, don't you think?
I deserved nice things too, but increasingly I wasn't getting them. My weekly house cleaner, Rosa, who'd been with me for 15 years, stopped coming. When I asked Victoria about it, she said I'd canceled the service. You don't remember, Mom. You said it was too expensive. You wanted to save money. I didn't remember saying that. But then again, I didn't remember a lot of things lately. The dementia was getting worse. My doctor had mentioned it during my last appointment. Memory gaps, confusion, difficulty. Managing complex tasks. My medication refills were late. Victoria apologized. She'd forgotten to pick them up. The gardener I'd employed for 20 years suddenly stopped maintaining my property. Victoria said I'd let him go. Budget cuts, Mom. You agreed to it. I found myself living smaller, eating cheaper meals, wearing old clothes. Meanwhile, Victoria's daughter, Emma, my granddaughter, was attending a private school that cost $40,000 a year. How can you afford that? I asked Victoria one Sunday. She smiled tightly. We're managing, Mom. Emma deserves the best education. You always said that. Invest in the children. That's what you and Dad did for us. It was true. We'd sacrifice so Victoria could attend university. So all our children could have opportunities. We never had. I just never imagined she'd sacrifice me in return. But I still didn't understand the full picture. Not yet. That revelation would come on a cold morning in April 2021 when my son James made an unexpected visit from London. James arrived on a Tuesday morning without warning. I was having tea in my sunroom when I heard the doorbell. My youngest son stood there with his suitcase, looking exhausted from the long flight, but his eyes were bright with urgency. Mom, he said, embracing me tightly, we need to talk. About Victoria. About your money. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? He set his laptop on my kitchen table and opened it to a spreadsheet. Michael and I have been talking. We're supposed to be executors of Dad's estate along with Victoria, but every time we ask for documentation, for updates on your financial situation, Victoria stonewalls us. She says everything's handled and we're being paranoid. Victoria handles everything now, I said defensively. She has power of attorney. She's taking care of me. That's what concerns us. James pulled up bank statements, ones I'd never seen before. Michael managed to get these through his lawyer friend. Mom, do you know how much money should be in your accounts right now? I shook my head slowly. I hadn't looked at a bank statement in over a year. Victoria always said not to worry about such things, based on Dad's life insurance. Your joint savings, the sale of the business, and your investment returns. You should have approximately $3.4 million in liquid assets. That's not counting this house. 3.4 million. That seemed right. Charles had been meticulous about our finances. James pointed at the screen. You currently have $900,000. Across all accounts, combined, the room tilted. That's not possible. $2.5 million has been transferred out over the past 2.5 years. His voice cracked. Mum, Victoria has been systematically draining your accounts. Look at these transactions. He scrolled through pages and pages of withdrawals. Transfers to credit cards I didn't own. Payments to luxury retailers. A $70,000 payment to Emma's private. School paid entirely from my account. Landscaping work on Victoria's property. A second car purchase. Designer furniture. Even a vacation to Fiji. $25,000. Charged to my credit card. She told me you were downsizing, James said, tears in his eyes, that you wanted to simplify your life. But you're not downsizing by choice, are you? You're being bled dry. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. My own daughter. My Victoria. It gets worse, Mum. James pulled up older documents. This isn't the first time she's done this. What do you mean? Not the first time? My voice came out as a whisper. James hesitated, then pulled out a manila folder. 1998. Do you remember Victoria getting into trouble at her work? The memory crashed over me like a wave. Yes, God, yes. Victoria had been 23, working as an office manager for a real estate firm. There had been irregularities, missing money, over $200,000 in fraudulent transactions. She went to prison, I said slowly. The shame of that time still burned. 9 months. Your father and I, we were devastated. Dad paid back every cent, James said. He hired her lawyers. He covered the theft to keep the real estate company from pursuing harsher charges. Do you know what Victoria told the judge? I shook my head. Tears streaming down my face. She said the company was making plenty of money for doing little work. So she deserved some of it. James's voice hardened. She justified stealing from her employers. And Mom, do you remember what you and Dad said when she was released? I did. We'd told her she was family. That we'd forgive her. That everyone deserves a second chance. We'd welcomed her back. Helped her get back on her feet. Paid for her to get her MBA. Supported her children while she rebuilt her life. Dad never told you this, James continued. But Victoria never paid him back. That $200,000 he covered for her, she owed it to him. It was supposed to come out of her inheritance. He had it documented in his will. Her portion would be reduced to compensate. But the will... Victoria was present when Dad's lawyer read the will. She knew about the debt. And Mum, less than a year after Dad died, she convinced you to give her power of attorney. Don't you see? She's doing it again. But this time, she's stealing from you. I stood up shakily, gripping the table. My mind raced through 25 years of Victoria's life. The manipulation. The charm. The way she always had an explanation for everything. How she'd isolated me from my financial advisors. From my other children. Your father said something to me once, I whispered, after the trial. He said Victoria enjoyed the deceit more than the money. That she liked manipulating people. I thought he was being harsh. I thought he was angry. He was right, James said quietly. And now she's manipulating you. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone. We need to call the police. Right now. James grabbed my wrist gently. I already tried. We need more evidence. What happened next was perhaps more devastating than Victoria's betrayal itself. We discovered that the system, designed to protect vulnerable elderly people, was utterly broken. James took all our evidence to the Auckland Police Department. Bank statements showing the fraudulent transfers. Credit card bills for purchases I'd never made. Receipts for Victoria's lifestyle upgrades. We had everything documented, organized, undeniable. Detective Sarah Morrison looked at our evidence for exactly 15 minutes before shaking her head. This is a civil matter, she said, sliding the folder back across her desk. Your mother gave Ms. Richardson power of attorney voluntarily. She had legal access to these accounts. But she's stealing, James protested. $2.5 million. My mother has dementia. Victoria is exploiting her condition. I understand your frustration, Mr. Richardson. But power of attorney means she had lawful access to the funds. This needs to be resolved through civil courts, not criminal. We tried the serious fraud office next. Surely they'd understand. Surely $2.5 million dollars was serious enough. The response came via email. The information provided does not support an allegation of serious or complex fraud offending. We recommend pursuing this through civil channels. James contacted Elder Protection Services. They were sympathetic but ultimately useless. This case is far too complex for our organization, they told us. We handle neglect and abuse, but financial exploitation with legal power of attorney falls into a gray area. Gray area. My life savings were gone, and it was a gray area. I spent $60,000 on lawyers over the next year. They filed civil suits. They tried to revoke Victoria's power of attorney. They requested audits and investigations. Victoria's lawyers countered every move. She claimed she'd been managing my assets, and that any expenditures were for my benefit or authorized by me. She produced documents, ones I didn't remember signing, that supposedly proved I'd agreed to gift money to her and her children. My signature was on them. Had I signed them? With the dementia, I couldn't be sure. That uncertainty was her weapon. James flew back and forth from London 4 times. Michael came from Singapore twice. They were spending their own money, taking time away from their families, fighting a battle that seemed impossible to win. And Victoria? Victoria continued living her upgraded life. She'd even hired a PR consultant, paid with my money, I'm sure, to manage her reputation. She told people her brothers were greedy and trying to steal my inheritance. The cruelty was breathtaking. The breakthrough came in March 2022, 3 years after the theft began. James hired a forensic accountant, another $20,000, who discovered something Victoria had missed. She'd been sloppy. Many of her authorized transactions had occurred on dates when I'd been hospitalized or at medical appointments. Timestamps proved I couldn't have approved them. Security camera footage from luxury stores showed Victoria making purchases with credit cards in my name. Cards I'd never held, never seen. Most damning, she'd paid for her daughter's private school directly from my account using automatic payments she'd set up. $40,000 per year for 3 years. The school's records showed Victoria had enrolled Emma as being sponsored by grandmother Eleanor Richardson's education fund. There was no education fund. She'd just been directly stealing. Armed with this new evidence, James hired a criminal defense attorney who specialized in elder financial abuse. The attorney marched into the police station and essentially refused to leave until they agreed to investigate. I'll sit in this office, the attorney told them, and I'll make sure every media outlet in New Zealand knows that the Auckland police refused to investigate a clear case of elder abuse involving millions of dollars. Finally, Detective Mark Cooper agreed to open a criminal investigation. It took another year, a full year of forensic accounting, witness interviews, document analysis. Victoria was arrested in April 2023. She actually had the audacity to act shocked. "This is a misunderstanding," she told the media outside the courthouse, her expensive lawyer beside her. "My mother's dementia has confused her. My brothers are manipulating her for the inheritance." But the evidence was overwhelming. In November 2023, facing a mountain of proof, Victoria pleaded guilty to 6 counts of theft in a special relationship. Each count represented hundreds of fraudulent transactions. The sentencing hearing in January 2024 should have given me closure. The judge sentenced her to 4 years and 3 months in prison. She'd stolen $1.2 million in total. My sons calculated that if the theft hadn't occurred, my estate would have been worth $3.6 million. Instead, I was left with less than $800,000, and I'd spent nearly $100,000 on legal fees just to prove I'd been robbed by my own daughter. Victoria never apologized, not once. She stood in that courtroom, looked directly at me and said, "I did what I thought was best for the family." Best for her family, her children, her lifestyle. Never mind what it did to me. I'm 72 now. 4 years have passed since I discovered Victoria's theft. She's still in prison, scheduled for release next year. I've heard through mutual friends that she's already planning her comeback. Another fresh start. Another chance to rebuild. I won't be there for it. People ask me if I'll ever forgive her, if I'll reconcile when she's released. The answer is simple. No. Some betrayals are too profound. Some wounds don't heal. What Victoria took from me wasn't just money, though God knows that was devastating enough. She took my dignity, my independence, my final years of financial security, I'm 72 and I worry about money now. Me, who'd never worried about money a day in her life after. Charles and I built our success. She took my trust. Not just in her, but in everyone. I second-guess every interaction now. Every kindness feels suspect. When my home health aide helps me with medication, I wonder if she's stealing pills. When my accountant reviews my taxes, I check and recheck his work. Victoria didn't just rob me. She taught me that the people closest to you can destroy you most efficiently. Most painfully, she stole my identity as a mother. I used to be proud of my children. Now, when people ask about my family, I change the subject. The shame is overwhelming. What kind of mother raises a thief? What did I do wrong? Charles used to say she was a bit of a black sheep, and I'd defend her. I'd insist she was just misunderstood. I wasn't wrong about one thing, she was misunderstood. I misunderstood her completely. I saw a loving daughter when I should have seen a predator. I saw family when I should have seen a threat. My sons take care of me now. James moved back to New Zealand. Michael visits every few months. They've set up a trust with independent oversight. No single person has complete access to my finances anymore. It's sad that it came to this, that my own family requires lawyers and accountants to mediate our relationships. Victoria's children, my grandchildren, reached out recently. They paid back some of the stolen money from their own savings, trying to make amends for their mother's crimes. They're good kids. They're ashamed. They want to rebuild our relationship. I told them I need time. Maybe lots of time. Because here's what I've learned at 72. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Family doesn't mean safety. And sometimes the person you trust most in this world is the one sharpening the knife behind your back. I raised a thief, and she stole everything.